A fundamental mechanic of storage tech is the ability to lock hoppers using a redstone signal. This effectively turns them off in terms of functionality, which massively reduces the lag they cause. This is not just useful for filters, as most common people use it, but it is also great if you want to make a machine that has, for example, over 1,000 hoppers, or even over 10,000, because the lag reduction is incredible. But there is one problem I have seen with the storage community. Nobody could answer me a simple question: what is better, using redstone torches to do this, or using pistons pushing redstone blocks? These are the two most common ways to do this, and I have used both of them in various designs, but it always kind of bothered me. And like I said, when I ask about it, people either tell me it doesn't matter, they tell me one is better or the other is better, depends on who you ask, and it doesn't seem that anyone did an even a remotely reasonable test of this. And yeah, sure, for a machine that is supposed to be the smallest possible and you will build 10 of them, it doesn't matter, you just pick whatever fits or is easier to build or whatever. But if you want to make something at scale, it kind of becomes important. I'll go over later layouts for bulk storages, where it matters even more. As you can see, there are way more of these things, and they are often needed to be very low lag in order to allow very fast machines to run right next to them, because usually the faster a farm in terms of producing items per hour, the more lag it causes. So the more server performance you can allocate to the farm, the more you can produce. So this is technically also optimizing all kinds of farms. So let's do a test. This is 50 of them. So you can see this starts at 0. Technically it's 90 million and exactly, and it's 90 million 49 or 9 million 40, no, 9 million, whatever. And I have here a 16 game tick clock, and all I will do, I'm currently on the 1.18 Protect CMP, is I'll run this. As you can see, it's now running. I'll wait until it reaches the end, and then I'll use the carpet command called take health, and I'll do this 5 times, and you can do the math. I'll just estimate it. .4. .8. For those of you unaware, these are milliseconds it takes the game to compute what is supposed to be done every game tick. This is a rather effective method of visualizing lag, because once this goes over 50 milliseconds, the game literally slows down, because Minecraft has one game update every 50 milliseconds, and once it can't do that anymore, it will slow everything down. So I would say it's around 4 milliseconds per tick. Let's try the layout with pistons. .2. 5.3. 5.6 even. 5.7. 5.1. .4. And again 5.6. So let's say about 5.5, 5.4. That's quite the difference if you think about it. Let's just measure the idle lag for a second, so we know how much it is while nothing is running. Obviously, these things are optimized as possible. 2.3. The torches are placed on light sources, so their own light doesn't interfere with anything, and the pistons are under a massive stone roof. 2.3, yeah. So that's quite a difference. That's almost 30%. That's actually more than 30% more lag caused by pistons. Of course, you cannot easily determine it this way. It would be great if you could just have the percentages, like I just said, but realistically, lag is non-linear, so having twice as many of these things will not produce twice as much delay. There are at least some optimizations within the Minecraft code. So this is rather conclusive. I think it's pretty obvious which one is better. And now let's try the two options for the bulk storages. This is a layout you have probably seen either on very sort of simple and casual machines, or maybe on my first ever USS attempt, where I was simply ignoring the size limitations of all kinds, because that's usually the biggest problem of this. And I basically found out that this is probably the easiest one to build, since it doesn't require too much logic. You just send a pulse from the bottom to the top. And I was always wondering how it compares. So let's try that. There are now way more torches than there are pistons here. And this pushes a lot of blocks. So let's see how that works out. Okay, I think it reached the end. .6. 8.2, I guess. 8.81. I'm not going to say that out loud probably, because there might be some cursed number. Since it reminds me of one. 8.7. 8.4. 7.6, okay. So let's say 8.3 or something like that on average. Now let's try this. There's also the disadvantage that this is rather loud. You can see this layout very often. Storages on the Storage Tech archive. This is technically also limited in height. This can only go 12 blocks up, while this can be unlimited. I just made it the same size, so we can have a direct comparison. .3. Damn, that's a lot. 450 slices. 10.0. 9.9, that's actually a little bit better. Maybe it's slightly decreasing, or not. So around 10 milliseconds per take. Yeah, seems like it. Okay, I think there's not much else to test. These are the most common use cases. Maybe someone has some more niche things. And I always say that test this on your world, in your version, because this might change over time. 1.18 is a fairly new version at this point, so this should be reasonably accurate. But there are various potential issues, like the physical construction of the processor the server is running might mean one of these is easier to run than the other, or weird things like that when it comes to researching this. So that's why I recommend you to not just blindly rely on my results, even though they are fairly conclusive. Like, I don't think there's much doubt. If I would have run this 100 times, I don't think there would be any significant change. Maybe there will be slightly more precise result, but the end would be still the same, that using redstone torches to lock hoppers is more effective. There is, however, one thing I also wanted to test as a bonus for those of you that are willing to stick around, and that is what happens if I do the same thing, but I push a piston, a redstone block with a piston to lock these. This can sometimes be necessary if you have a very specific bulk storage. Where you might need to have both features. In my opinion, this might be really close. Let's see. Let's do it like this. We will need a slightly shorter clock. So yeah, if you don't want to stay around and wait for this, I think you can leave now with knowing that using redstone torches is generally more effective in terms of lag, even though it's a bit less convenient sometimes. I just love the placement of pistons, honestly. Okay, I don't even need to destroy that, I just realized. could even do a faster clock. Because technically you need to both extend and retract it. Yeah. To send the pulse. So yeah, let's try this. Okay, so this already gets worse, I think. Or maybe it's just the same. It looks very comparable. Yeah. So that's about it. So having a 12 double chest high stair of torches blocking hoppers together with one piston pushing redstone blocks is about as laggy as having these two columns here, which is pretty useful to know. So these two versions are technically equal, so or very close to equal. So if you ever get in a situation where you have to choose, now you can safely pick one or the other without being at a disadvantage in terms of lag. So yeah, that's it for today's video. I hope you like this insight into how storage tech works, and we finally solved an issue that was plaguing the community for a long time. And please, of course, like the video, subscribe, share it with your friends, especially if they want to get into this field, and even when you want to just convince them your machine is better or that one change in your machine would be an improvement. Now you have reasonably conclusive evidence. And I hope it made your day a little bit better and your experience with technical Minecraft a little more enjoyable. So have a nice day.